welcome to the Engerati studio. We're live at European Utility Week. I'm Rose and I'm joined now by Rodolphe de Beaufort.
Hello.
Hello, Smart Grid Marketing Manager for GE Grid. Thank you for joining us today. Rodolphe, I wanted to start by asking your opinion of something that came up in our Power in Europe publication, which we put together recently. Some of your peers in the industry suggested that a good level of energy security in Europe is actually holding back the development of a truly smart grid. What was your opinion of that?
It's actually very true, because obviously the number one priority for the grid operators and the generators themselves is to guarantee the level of security to their customers. So it's basically their fundamental mission, and for the moment the entire system is designed with, I would say, traditional rules to guarantee this level of security. And the smart grid is providing new solutions that are not only technical solutions but that have an impact on the operational processes, on the HR management, on the business model of the entire stakeholders of the chain. And today we are at the point where we have demonstrated in technical pilots that the technique could bring interesting solutions, but we haven't done the work to design entirely all the rules, all the regulation that would allow the utilities to use this technology to plan the backup for this technology, to assess the risk in order to manage the grid and the operation differently. So we are still in a transition phase where the smart grid is still a promising offer, but that requires to be, I would say, translated into the DNA of these companies. So that's why for the moment we are still in a kind of waiting phase in terms of deployment, but there is a lot of work in the background in order to prepare, I would say, this next revolution.
Yeah, we were talking just before, weren't we, about regulation and how actually DSOs need to be incentivized to make change and take risks, as opposed to the reverse.
Exactly. That's one of the fundamental problems today. The regulation is not the same everywhere, but globally, the previous scheme in most of the utilities is a business model for the grid operators, which guarantee them a revenue as a share of the investment they do on the grid each year. And the impact of the energy transition is basically to connect distributed energy in different levels of the grid, which requires, if you apply the traditional rules, heavy investment, heavy reinforcement on the existing grids. And this has an impact on the investment of these utilities. It's going to blow up in a certain manner in the coming 5 to 10 years. We start to see this effect in Germany. But for the moment, these grid operators don't have an incentive, in fact, to reduce this investment because they receive as a revenue a share of this investment. And the problem is that the impact of continuing like this is that this additional investment is going to be transferred into the distribution and transportation tariff for the end user, and it's going to raise, like we can see in many countries in Europe. And the more this tariff is rising, the more their customers are incentivized to self-consume and basically to go off-grid in the future. So if we continue like this, the business model of the utilities is going to be basically an incentive for their customer to run away. So there is a real need to change that and to allow keeping these tariffs stable, which means that the regulator needs to allow and to find new ways to incentive the grid operators to reduce their investment or to find smart ways to avoid tariff going up and covering the risk of the change management inside these organizations, because there is not only a technical impact, there is a change management impact on the processes, on the competencies, the skills of the teams, etc., etc. So it's a risk to change for the utilities, and this risk requires to be covered in the next 5 years by, I would say, an incentive regulation that would allow the utility to go on that journey with, I would say, a comfortable idea of what is going to be their future business model.
Do you get a sense from being in the market that regulators are aware of this need? Is it just that they're moving slowly to actually kind of help the DSOs in this regard?
I think that they are clearly aware, or some of their divisions are aware. But I would say it's not a very simple problem, because once you start changing a piece of the regulation, there is a lot of impact on the entire system, because it's really a very nice design as a regulation. It has been created during the last 50 years, and now we are talking about reversing this situation. Yeah. So it's a complex it's a complex thing to do, but basically we really need to do this change before the grid parity is reaching Europe, you know, because if we don't do it before 2020, basically, the customer will have a choice between an old regulated tariff on the grid and cheap, affordable production on self-consumption, and there will be great tension on the market due to this. So we really need to go fast and to prepare ourselves as an industry before 2020 in order to prepare the next phase.
Okay. So obviously, you know, regulators aside, utilities are pressing on with the digitization of their networks and their infrastructure. What's the kind of penetration like in Europe of a very, you know, digitalized utility?
The change is really is going, I think, quite fast, because the grid operators are using, I would say, digital tools for years. It's just a matter of they have more and more tools to allow, I would say, situational awareness on the distribution grid. For the moment, we are in a situation where the technology that has been developed mostly for the transmission companies is going down to the distribution companies. So we have a lot of features that was available on the transportation that are applied today on the distribution. So this is a very good first digitization impact. The real smart grid then is how do we change the way we operate the grid thanks to these technologies. So it's another step to climb, I would say, and to allow transferring not only some technology from the transmission company to the distribution company, but also some operational principle, like balancing, like flexibility management, congestion management at the distribution level. And this is really what the utilities are currently working on for the next years.
I think you know, disruptive is a well-used term in this kind of arena. What's your opinion of technologies that are truly changing the market?
There is I think that basically the technology which is really changing the game is the decentralized energy and the storage, where we see the prices going down and down and down, and each year it's going more down than expected. So it's really a tremendous change because we are going to enter into into the grid parity world, and it's going to change the fundamental reflex of the customers. And on the other side, we have some IT technology as well, which is bringing disruption. So on one side we have the distribution technology, distributed energy resource technology, which is creating the disruption. And on the other side we have IT solutions that are bringing solutions to manage this disruption. So the IT technologies are not bringing the disruption themselves, they are going to help managing this disruption.
Yeah. One of your countrymen, actually, Oliver Leperc from Engie, yesterday in one of the keynotes was talking about hydrogen being like the silver bullet of the energy revolution. Would you agree with that?
Yes. No, yeah, we hope that we see that a lot of actors are really changing their strategy now. So we really see that in the last 2 years, most of the utilities are working on a disruptive plan and changing their strategy to have a different approach on the market. And most of them are now searching for technology partners like us to find the appropriate tools to engage into this new era.
Okay, thanks so much. Thank you for your comments.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And you can watch more of the interviews from European Utility Week on the YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.